What's good, y'all? We back with another video, and in this video I want to break down a beat that I made while giving some slight tutorial lessons to Miss No Lid Creations while she was doing her Color Purple sample chop series. And I'll leave a link to the video maybe up here in the corner or in the description or something if you want to check those out. They're pretty cool. She's just now getting into MPC sample chopping and was asking different sample type techniques because a lot of people hear that there's only one way to sample, that it has to be a certain way or you can't do it. And I'm like, nah, throw that out the way. Do whatever it is that you feel. Whatever you feel like you need to do to make that beat sound better or enhance it, then do it. Don't worry about these rules that people laid out. None of that. All of that goes out the door in 2024. It should have went out the door a long time ago. But let's go ahead and talk about it and get into some of this stuff. And I'll show you the beat that I made, the sample I use in different ways to chop a sample to make different unique sounds. Follow me. All right, we're inside the MPCX, and this is the sample I used. It's a very short sample, and I just wanted to use this to show that you didn't need a long sample or a lot of sample chops to make something into a beat. As I said before, the reason for this is because she felt like you had to record a sample and then basically chop it on the beat, every pad or something like that. And I'm like, no, that's not something that's necessary. You don't necessarily have to use like a lazy chop or regions or even 16 sample chops for every beat that you make. In this particular beat, I didn't touch the sample at all. But before we go play the beat, I'm going to show you some different ways that I could have chopped this sample. The first one I want to talk about is thresholds. So if you put it on thresholds, right now the threshold is at 100%. And the lower you drop it, eventually it'll start giving you sample chops based on the threshold that's set. And right now, because the sample is so short, I'm down to 62%, or I'm down to 62, and it's not giving me anything. So I got to 60 and it gave me one sample chop. So that's all it gave me at 60. Let's keep going. Down to 50, 57, now I'm up to 3 sample chops. At 53, it gave me 4 sample chops. And let's keep going. So we went all the way down to 0. So this sample, being that it's so short, it only gave me 4 samples. It's not gonna give me any more than that. I've seen it give you like 128 samples if you sample a long portion of a song, but I guess 4 is all I'm gonna get out of this. I rarely use regions anyway. Not something I like to do. If you want to use micro chops and things like that, regions can come in handy for that and give you some random points in the song that might work for you. It's just something I don't do very often because it's not really my thing. I like to be more precise. I want to have more control over the sample. So I want to mostly do it myself. So now if we go to regions, put it on 16 regions, it automatically gives us 16 sample chops of equal length throughout the song. And it's better to do this if you have a sample and you know the BPM of it, or it's an exact loop, and then it'll give you exact sample chops. Otherwise the chops will be a little bit off and you'll have to go in and manually adjust them. I'm not going to touch this right now because I'm not going to keep this, but just to show you an idea of what it gave me. So it gave me 16 equal chops. And these are so you can probably play around with this and come up with something This gonna sound good depending on the method that you want, what kind of beat you want to create, how you want it to sound. This is still probably gonna be usable. And we have BPM chopping. In this particular sample, it looks like BPM chopping gave me the same thing as regions. But again, it depends on how you got the sample set. If it's an equal loop or a full loop or whatnot, you'll come up with different results. Like I said before, we're not going to use this one either. So I'm going to go back to manual chops. I'm not going to use these manual chops that I'm about to do in this particular beat, but I just wanted to show you another way that I would maybe sample this beat if I was trying to be creative. What I'm going to do is try to sample out every different sound variation that I can hear in this small sample. Okay, so I got 8 sample chops. Now they're off, so I'm gonna have to go in and adjust these sample chops to get them more precise. Let's start with the first sample chop. That is pretty close. So that's pretty close. So we basically got a snare right there. So let's clean up the end of that. Now we got like the beginning of a bass hit. It's starting another note. So we're gonna go back from the end of that. So we got another bass note, and then it's going into the vocal to get rid of the vocal part. You want the first part of that vocal. And so this is 2 different words. So we're gonna go back to the first part. We just want the now we got the sample chopped up, and we pretty much separated every sound in this sample, I believe. Can clean up the end of this one a little better. There we go. Now, with this, what you can do is now take these, since you got everything separated, what I would do, if I was gonna do it like this, is kind of play these sample chops as a drum pattern. You know what I'm saying? So basically, that's not a kick drum, but I would use it like a kick. So something like that, you know what I'm saying? And you can kind of move around, get creative with it. And you can just play around with it till you come up with something you like. Now, like I said before, that's not what I did with this particular beat. I just took that sample, left it alone, just because I wanted to show her that you can use anything to make a beat with it. Even if it's not properly cut, it's not a full loop, it's not like a balanced sound or none of that. It's a particular set of sounds. And I just said, you know what, I'm gonna take this, no matter what, and make this the beat. So now we're in our program where that sample is set. All I did was took that sample, put it in a drum program, lowered the volume a little bit, And that's what we got. Now I'm gonna turn on warp, and I warped it to 76.2 beats per minute. Sped it up a little bit. Now we go to the main. I'm gonna play this sample by itself. And like I said, this sample is not a proper loop, but because of the way I warped it and the way it is playing, it kind of sounds like a proper loop in that order. Okay. Now the next thing I did once I had that sample loop playing is I went to Masada Cycle Kit 7. It's his newest cycle kit and it's pretty good. I'll leave a link to this in the description as well in case you want to try it out for yourself. But the reason I use this is because of all of the articulations that you get while playing the drums. As an example, I want to go to this hi-hat right here, and I want you to hear all of the differences that this one hi-hat pad has on it. Now, keep in mind that it's not multiple pads. It wasn't recorded using 16 levels or anything like that. This is just this one pad alone. And you can increase the level of variation if you use something like 16 levels or things like that. In this case, this is just that pad. Almost like 4 different hi-hat hits in here. So it kind of adds to the beat a little bit, gives it a little more movement. The kick drums are pretty much the same way. So you hear the variations in all of the sounds as they're being played. Now I got the drum program solo without any other thing playing, so you can hear how much movement this drum pattern has in it. It makes it sound a lot more interesting than just a regular drum program with one sound on each pad. It gives it some variation. That might be something that you want at times. Maybe not all the time, but sometimes beats that have a lot of movement in that, it gives it more energy. Now, I only used 4 tracks in this beat. The next thing I added was simple piano chords, just long drawn out chords, kind of bass chords, just to add that a little bit of grit in it. You know what I'm saying? Like, cause I love low piano notes when you get down into that lower register before they sound like groggy. But the ones just before that, it's one of my favorite sounds on the piano. Nothing fancy at all. It's really simple. It gives it that crunch to me. I'm always somewhere down there. You get too much lower than that, it starts sounding a little ugly, but though that range right there is kind of in the sweet spot for me. Maybe not everybody, but I'm talking about for me. And the last thing I added was an 808 from my 808 Crusher pack that I gave away free a while ago. It's still free, by the way. That is real simple as well. I use all of these very simple elements and put them together, and the beat that came out sounds to me like a high energy hip hop beat. You know what I'm saying? Somebody could go in on it if they want to. We'll get a preview of that now. So that was it. Hopefully it sounded good to you. I think it's a pretty decent beat, but I just wanted to show that there are so many different ways to sharpen up samples to come up with decent beats. And it doesn't always have to be just one way and one way only. And it doesn't matter what you sample from or how you sample. If you're sampling from vinyl, cool. If you're sampling from YouTube, cool. If you're sampling from a cell phone, cool. However you get that sample, just use what you have to make the most of it. It's 2024. We got so much more technology than what they had in the 80s. We can do so many more variations with the audio. My stance is do what you want to do. It don't matter how you get it. If it comes out sounding good in the end, rejoice. That's all I got for this one. As always, thanks for watching, and I'm out.